The Three Musketeers, Chapter 5. D'Artagnan knew no one in Paris, so he went to meet Athos without bringing a second, resolved to content himself with those chosen by his adversary. Besides, it was his definite intention to make the brave musketeers all suitable apologies, but without weakness, he fearing that the results of the duel would be what is always the most regrettable results in an affair of this kind. When a young and vigorous man fight against a wounded and weakened adversary, vanquished, and he doubles the triumph of his antagonist victorious, he is accused of treachery and easy audacity. Moreover, either he have poorly introduced the main of our adventure seeker, or our reader must already have noticed that he was by no means an ordinary man, and so, while repeating to himself that was unavoidable, he was not at all resigned to die meekly as another man less courageous and less reasonable than he would have been in his place. He hoped, thanks to the honest excuses he had saved up for him, to make a friend of Athos, whose lordly air and austere appearance pleased him greatly. He flattered himself that he might frighten Porthos with the venture of the Baltic, which, if he was not killed at once, he would tell to everyone. A story which, skillfully brought to full effect, should cover Porthos with ridicule. Finally, as for the sly Aramis, he was not much afraid of him, and supposing that he got to him, he undertook to dispatch him well and good, or at least to strike him on the face as Caesar commended doing to Pompey's soldiers, thus spoiling forever that beauty he was so proud of. Furthermore, there was in D'Artagnan that unshakable supply of resolution which his father's advice had deposed in his heart, advice the substance of which was suffer nothing from anyone except the king, the cardinal, and M. de Treville. Thus he rather flew than walked to the convent of the Camus de Chassos, or Deschaus, as they sat at the same time, a sort of windowless building bordered by barren fields, a subsidiary of the Preux clerks, and which commonly served for the encounters of men who had no time to lose. When D'Artagnan came in view of the little wasteland that lay at the foot of the monastery, Athos had been waiting for only 5 minutes, and it was striking noon. He was thus as punctual as the summer train, and the most rigorous Cassuts with regard to duels had nothing to say. Athos, who was still suffering cruelly from his wound, though it had been newly bandaged by M. de Treville's surgeon, was sitting on a post and waiting his adversary with that peaceful countenance and dignified air which never left him. At the sight of D'Artagnan, he stood up and politely took a few steps toward him. The latter, for his part, reapproached his adversary, not otherwise than with his head in his hand and its plume dragging on the ground. Monsieur, said Athos, I have informed 2 of my friends who will serve me as seconds, but these 2 friends have not yet arrived. I am surprised that they are late. It is not their habit. I must have no seconds, monsieur, said D'Artagnan. For having come to Paris only yesterday, I know no one here as yet except M. de Treville, to whom I was recommended by my father, who was the honor to be something of a friend of his. Athos reflected for a moment. You know only M. de Treville, he asked. Yes, monsieur, I only know him. But that. Athos went to speaking half to himself and half to D'Artagnan. But if I kill you, I'll look like a child leader. Not so much, monsieur, replied D'Artagnan with a bow. That was not with the wound. That must be great inheritance to you, a great inheritance on my word, and you caused me the devil's own pain, I must say, but I'll use my left hand as is my habit in such circumstance. Don't think I'm doing you a kindness. I draw just as well with both hands, and there will be even disadvantage for you. A left-handed is a very troublesome for people who are not forewarned. I regret not being informed you, but this circumstance earlier. Truly, monsieur, said D'Artagnan, including once more, you are of a courtesy of which I will not be more grateful. You embarrass me, replied Athos with his gentlemanly air. Let's speak of something else, I beg you, unless you find it disagreeable. Ah, Saint-Leu, you really hurt me. My shoulder is on fire. If you really permit, D'Artagnan said timidly. What, monsieur? I have a miraculous balm for wounds, a balm that comes to me from my mother, and which I have tried myself. Well then, I'm sure that in less than 3 days, this balm will cure you, and at the end of the 3 days, then you're cured. Well then, monsieur, it will be a great honor for me to be your man. D'Artagnan spoke these words with a simplicity that did honor to his courtesy without damaging his courage in any way. Pardon, monsieur, said Athos. There's a proposition that pleases me. Not that I accept it, but it smells of a gentleman a league away. It was thus the valiant knights spoke and acted in this time of Charlemagne, upon who every cavalier must seek to model himself. Unfortunately, we are no longer in the time of the great emperor. We are in the time of M. le Cardinal, and 3 days from now it will be known. However, well, the secret is kept. It will be known that we are going to fight, and our combat will be opposed. But will those murderers never come? It will be if you're in a hurry, monsieur, D'Artagnan said to Athos with the same simplicity with which a moment before he has just putting off the duel for 3 days. If you're in a hurry and you prefer to dispatch me at once, please go ahead. There's another word that pleases me, said Athos, nodding gracefully to D'Artagnan. It hardly speaks for a witless man, and certainly speaks for a man of courage. Monsieur, I like men of your temper, and I see that if we don't kill each other, I will afterwards take real pleasure in your conversation. Let us wait for those gentlemen, I beg you. I have plenty of time, and will be more correct. Here's one of them, I believe. Indeed, at the end of Rue de Vaugirard, the gigantic Porthos began to appear. What? Cried D'Artagnan. Your first witness is M. Porthos? Yes, do you object? No, not at all. And here's the second. D'Artagnan turned to where Athos was pointing and recognized Aramis. What? He cried with still more astonishment with the first time. Your second witness is M. Aramis? Tarps, said D'Artagnan. Your ignorance of that detail is permissible, said Athos. Meanwhile, Porthos had come up and greeted Athos with a wave of the hand. Then, turning to D'Artagnan, he stopped in utter amazement. Let us mention, in passing, that he had changed his baldric and taken off his coat. Aha, he said, what's this? This is the gentleman I am to fight with, said Athos, indicating D'Artagnan with his hand and greeting him with the same gesture. I am to fight with him too, said Porthos. But not until 1 o'clock, said D'Artagnan. And I, too, am to fight with the gentleman, said Aramis, arriving in his turn. But not until 2 o'clock, D'Artagnan said with the same calm. But what are you fighting about, Athos? By heaven, I don't quite know. He hurt my shoulder, and you, Porthos? By heaven, I am fighting because I'm fighting, Porthos replied, blushing. Yes, a point in St. Augustine on which we disagree, said the Gascon. He decidedly a witty man. murmured Athos. "And now that you're all together, gentlemen," said D'Artagnan, "allow me to take you my apologies." At the word apologies, a cloud darkened Athos' brow. A haughty smile flitted over Porthos's lips, and Aramis responded with a negative gesture. "You underestimated me, gentlemen," said D'Artagnan, raising his head, on which a ray of sunlight played at the moment, gliding its fine and bold features. "I apologize to you in any case. I cannot pay my debt to all three of you, for M. Athos has a right to kill me first, which takes away much of the value of your claim. M. Porthos and renders your virtually null. M. Aramis, and now, gentlemen, I repeat you my apologies, but only for that. And on guard." And these words, with the most gallant gestures one could ever see, D'Artagnan drew his sword. The blood had risen to D'Artagnan's head, and at the moment he would have drawn his sword against all the musketeers in the realm, as he had just done against Porthos, Athos, and Aramis. It was a quarter past noon. The sun was at zenith, and the place chosen as a theater for the duel was exposed to its full ardor. "It's very hot," said Athos. "That's true, monsieur," said D'Artagnan, "and were ever drawn by another or by myself, I assure you that I will always greatly regret to see the blood of so brave a gentleman. I will therefore fight in my doublet like you." Come," said Porthos. "Enough of such compliments. Remember, we're waiting our turn." But the two rapiers had barely rung untouching when a squadron of His Eminence and guards commanded by M. de Jussac peered around the corner of the convent. The cardinal's guards, Porthos and Aramis, cried out together, "Put up your swords, gentlemen, put up your swords." But it was too late. The two combatants had been in a posture that left no doubt of their intentions. "Ho there!" cried Jussac, advancing towards them and making a sign of his men to do as much. "Ho there, musketeers! So you're fighting here, and in the edict? What about then? You are very generous, gentlemen of the guards," said Athos, full of rancour, for Jussac had been one of the aggressors the night before. "If we saw you fighting, I promise you, we'd keep him from interfering. Leave us alone, then you'll enjoy yourself without going to any trouble." "Gentlemen," said Jussac, "with great regret, I must inform you that the thing is impossible. Duty above all, put up your swords, if you please, and follow us." "Monsieur," said Aramis, parodying, "it will be a great pleasure for us to obey your gracious invitation, if it depends on us. But, unfortunately, the thing is possible, and the tribunal has forbidden it. Go your ways, then. That's the best you can do." "The mockery," expectorated Jussac. "We shall charge you, then, if you disobey. There are 5 of them." Then, in a low voice, Athos said in a low voice, "If only 3 of us will be beaten again, then we'll rather die here. For I declare I will not reappear in defeat before the captain." Then Athos and Aramis instantly closed the rank with him, while Jussac lined up his soldiers. This explanation was torn from Athos by Cahusac's sword, which landed 20 places from D'Artagnan, and Cahusac both rushed, the one to pick it up again, the other to take it away, but D'Artagnan, the more nimble, but got there first and placed his foot on it. Cahusac ran to the door's guard Aramis had killed, took his rapier, and was returning to D'Artagnan. But on his way he met Athos, who had caught him the breath during the moment's pause that D'Artagnan had procured, and who, for he feared D'Artagnan might kill his enemy for him, wanted to make up the fight again. D'Artagnan understood that it would be offensive to Athos not to let him do so. Indeed, a few seconds later, Cahusac fell, his throat ran through the stroke of his sword. At the same moment, Aramis pressed his sword to the chest of his fallen adversary and forced him to beg mercy. There remained Porthos and Biscarat. Porthos produced 1,000 fanfaronnades, asking Biscarat what time it might be. Though complimenting him on the company of his brother had just obtained in the regiment of Navarre. But his mockery gained him nothing. Biscarat, one of those men in iron who only fall when dead. However, it had to end. The watch might come and seize all the combatants, wounded or not, royalties or cardinalties. Athos, Aramis, and D'Artagnan surrounded Biscarat and called on him to surrender. Although alone again, them all, and with a sore stroke through the thigh, Biscarat told him to hold out, but Jussac, who had raised himself on one elbow, called him to surrender. Biscarat was a Gascon like D'Artagnan. He turned a deaf ear and contented himself with laughing, and between two turned a deaf ear and contented himself with laughing, and between two parries. Behind time to point out a machine to the ground with the tip of his sword, he said, parodying in a verse of the Bible, "Here dies Biscarat, alone of those who are with him. But if you got 4 men against you, end it. I order you." "Ah, if you order it, that's another thing," said Biscarat. "Since you're my commander, I must obey." And leaping back, he broke his sword over his knee, so as not to surrender it, threw the piece all over the convent wall, and crossed his arms, whistling a cardinal's tune. Standing, he carried Cahusac and the one of Aramis's adversaries, who was merely wounded, under the porch of the convent. The fort, as we have said, was dead. Then they rang the bell, and take 4 of the 5 swords went off drunk with joy to the hotel of M. de Treville. They were seen arm in arm, taking off the whole width of the streets, and accosting every musketeer they met.